Hello, everyone, and welcome to another small screen Star Wars. As always, I am Julian Rachel. I'm joined by Rachel Wilkinson.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about today The Bad Batch, Season 3, the final season, Episode 13, lucky number 13, Into the Breach. And it's a pretty banger episode, if you ask me.
You think?
It only has an 8 on IMDb,
Yeah.
which means it's not top rated, apparently, according to their rating
Okay.
system.
Yeah.
But I think this episode's being underserved because this episode is awesome. Now, I know we complained last week about the episode of the week nature of the whole thing.
Right.
How it didn't really drive the plot forward.
Mm-hmm.
This episode doesn't do a lot of that either, but it's so much more exciting. And the actual moment to moment beats are top notch, in my opinion. Hitting on every level. We'll get into that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. I think I'm just still not upset about last week, but I think I'm just still a little like, well, I wish last week's episode could have just been put into this one.
Yeah, those would have been fun together.
You know what I mean? Like, right? I just feel like you're right though. This one had a lot of fun stuff in it, but we'll get into it.
Yeah. And just as a reminder for anyone who's listening in the podcast, we do record this live every Thursday, although next week it will be likely on Friday. So just mark that on your calendar. But usually every Thursday, as these drop on Wednesdays on Twitch and YouTube, and you can find us at Tower Babblecast on either of those sites. And we have longtime friend of the show and frequent guest Axel from the DVR podcast in the chat today.
Oh, hello.
And wanted to tell us that we're both awesome, which is appreciated.
It's
and if you want to tell us that more often, anyone who wants to do that, I am welcome. You're very welcome to, and we'll take that anytime.
We like compliments, you know.
Yeah, Axel doesn't actually watch The Bad Batch, which is really his own fault. Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
you got to get into it. I think anything above 8 is considered back to the rating.
Oh, back to the ratings, yeah.
Anything above 8, so like 8.1 and above.
See, I thought top rated means based
maybe
off the other ratings. I think it's only top rated. Like, I think they only put the top 3 or something.
Well, so this one, Extractions, is 8.5, not considered a top rated, but this one, 8.6,
I think
Shadows of Tantus is considered top rated.
I think it takes like the ratings of all the episodes, and it's like a, what's the math term for that?
A ratio?
The ratio, yeah, sort of like the median, whatever.
Sure, or maybe it's just everything above 8.5. Either way, in my opinion, this episode was great. And we'll get into that. We're going to do a deep dive and go through this scene by scene, beat by beat. Mm-hmm. Before we get to that, though, a couple quick reminders. We have a Patreon if you want to help support the show. The best way to do that is to subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/Tower Babblecast, where as little as $5 a month, you get access to our Discord as well as our monthly exclusive film club. Mm-hmm. And this month, or I guess last month, we did, if you've been listening for a while, you know that we did Roadhouse last month, the original Roadhouse, which is a Stone Cold classic. So, and we're very happy to have done that, and continuing to vibe on that. I did watch the newer one, not as good. It's a shocker on that.
Yeah.
Next month, though, for this month coming, we are going to be doing Sam Raimi's The Quick and the Dead from 1995. So if you want to get some Western in, Star Wars has a lot of Western influences.
It's true.
Not so much today, a little bit. Pretty cool stuff today. But anyway, not so much this episode, but certainly in the past. Mm-hmm. So you would do yourself a favor by going and watching some Westerns so you can really get a sense of kind of like where Lucas was drawing inspiration from and stuff. I can't say if Sam Raimi's The Quick and the Dead, which came out 25 years after the original Star Wars, has any influence on that, but it looks like a pretty cool Western, so go check that out. Also follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast, Facebook.com/Tower Babblecast. That'll help you keep up to date with new episodes and all that kind of stuff. Okay. We'll jump into the news. Hold on, my dog is going crazy.
He's having a time.
We're gonna pause here for just 1 second, and I'll go help him out. Winston. All right, where was I?
Are we unpaused?
Yeah, technically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What?
Unpause. I wasn't too sure if that was a literal pause. Or not.
No, that was everything was still happening.
Yeah.
Where was I?
You were talking about movie club.
We just finished. Yeah, we're just doing the plugs.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah.
So next thing we're going to talk about is the smallest bit of Star Wars news. Just the itty bittiest, teeniest little bit of Star Wars news, which is that according to the IMDb, not the IMDb, the ESRB rating, which is the video game ratings board, Star Wars Outlaws will allow you to play Sabacc as an optional minigame. So this will mark the first time that you can actually play Sabacc in any capacity.
Okay. Wait, can't you play Sabacc? Oh no, maybe it's something different in Knights of the Old Republic. I thought you can play Sabacc. I could be wrong.
I think that, I mean, listen, I didn't do a lot of additional research on this, but I does feel like that would only be notable if you wouldn't have been able to play Sabacc before. I don't recall ever being able to play it. I remember people talking about how the rules for it were unclear. It was like, it's like poker, but like, is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, that's cool. I feel, because didn't we see on one of those, because that's the new game, right? That's coming out, obviously.
Yes, the new one.
Because remember we were talking about the more expensive versions of the game, and you can get like a Sabacc, whatever,
something
like extra pack for if you pay the most for the game.
So do you think it's like a card collecting game?
It's probably, it gives you more of a deck of cards, because I remember in the Knights of the Old Republic game, maybe it's not Sabacc, it's something else, but it's like one of the other card games that you play in Star Wars, but you can collect the cards and you're supposed to like build your own deck.
Yeah, so deck building games are quite popular, I think, now.
Yeah.
I don't think Sabacc was first mentioned. When was the first time Sabacc was mentioned in canon?
I would feel the original, because they talk about. Don't they talk about how Han gets the Falcon in the original trilogy?
I don't yet. I think
Sabacc?
it's just like mentioned. I don't know if Sabacc specifically is mentioned, but obviously it's seen in Solo and other things, and we've definitely.
I'm almost
heard
positive it's mentioned, like Lando mentioned something in the original trilogy.
So, but we've never really known how it works. So I am excited to know. I don't think that, but what I mean by that is if they're making it into a deck collecting game. That would be a very like modern take on that idea, which I guess is fine, but I would like something more traditional from a card game perspective.
Right, yeah.
To fit more of that timeline.
That would be kind of cool if they start like actually coming out and putting out Sabacc decks in real life too, so you could play it.
Yeah,
with people.
I guess, but again, I don't want it to be a deck collecting game.
I know what you mean. You don't have to buy packs of Sabacc cards.
Right.
So, like you can just get a deck or whatever.
Yeah, and then play that and be like, "Ha, I won your Millennium Falcon for me." Yeah.
If they make it in real life, we'll live stream us playing Sabacc.
And we'll bet a Lego set of the Millennium Falcon on it. Yeah.
You're paying for that then.
Yeah, maybe.
Just
that's
like
fair enough.
$300 Lego set.
Well, you can get smaller ones.
That's true.
You can get
actually, I do
ones.
have like we have one at home, but it's like the Ray version one.
Oh. Yeah, no. We would need like the
solo
version one, right? It still has the little pod
right,
thing in
it. Yeah, exactly.
I actually don't like that design.
I don't either. It looks weird with that piece.
It's too clean. Yeah. We have another person in the chat, Eva Logan, as Eva Logan 45. That's my guess for how you say that. So, everyone's welcome in the chat. Always great to have more folks here to join the conversation. All right. So that's it for Star Wars news. Thankfully, we can just get into this banger of an episode instead.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get into the recap here. The StarWars.com recap is this. On Tantus, Omega gets to know the other captive M-Count children. With their help, she maps the area and plots their escape via hidden maintenance corridors. Meanwhile, the Bad Batch devise a plan to sneak aboard an Imperial orbital station and access the location of Tantus, with the begrudging assistance of their prisoner, the former Vice Admiral Rampart.
Yes.
This is what the IMDb has for its logline. The Batch prep for a gambit in enemy territory. Love the use of gambit here. A little too soon, given what just happened in X-Men 97, but that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there. That's a different that's for a different podcast. Okay. This was directed by Brad Rao and Saul Ruiz, written by Dave Filoni, Jennifer Corbett, the usual cast of creators here. And we start on Tantus. I love how this episode every little detail is great here because we start with the traditional boom boom sound effect that we get usually with the Bad Batch, but then it doesn't do the second boom. It gives us a whomp, like a weird robot sound.
It does,
right?
Yeah.
Which is that inhibitor chip theme again being used as ominous. It's really cool, right? Just great sound work across the board for the show. But I just right away something's different. I love when Star Wars, I love if anything does it, but Star Wars especially plays with the title sequence or the credit sequence or kind of plays with your expectations in that way. So that was
Definitely,
great way to start off. We get more facial hair after last week's great beard from Rampart. We get a mustachioed scientist.
Did you think he looked a lot like Emery, but just like a boy version of Emery?
Kinda. Yeah, I actually did wonder that too.
Yeah, I was like, is that just like a male? Like, and I know that Emery's a clone too, but I'm like, did they just like make a clone of all these scientists? Because they all look kind of similar. It's interesting, but yeah, I immediately thought that was just like a boy version of her.
Wouldn't a boy version of Emery just be a regular clone?
That's what I was wondering because she doesn't look like Omega. I don't know. I don't understand the whole.
I feel like she will look like Omega when Omega grows up.
Could be,
I think she'll look like Emery, but
yeah,
obviously
maybe.
Less like tight bun, like less serious.
Yeah, that's true.
But I guess it's cool to see other characters introduced into the Tantus stuff because it'll make it more fun when they're killed in the following episodes.
Yeah,
especially we got the mean lady scientist again today. We'll talk about her
she's always like way more stern.
Yes.
Her bun's tighter. Like
You thought, just when you thought you couldn't get a tighter bun. we get Dr. Whoever her name is. Yeah.
And we had to make the distinction. The kids make the distinction that Emery's the nice one.
Yes, the only nice one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Where were we? So Omega wakes up in her cell, immediately, starts taking in her surroundings. That's the first thing I think that they try to make you notice, which is that she's not just taking this lying down, right? Mm-hmm. We also find out that this is basically her first day because she's introduced to the rest of the kids here, but she's clocking all the, the observation deck on the second floor, and she's looking at all the different controls and trying to take a lay of the land.
There's definitely way more scientists involved than I thought there were. Like, when you're looking in that control room, I'm like, oh, there's actually a ton of people up there. Like, I thought this would be a way more
exclusive.
Closed sort of, I don't know, operation.
I think if you're on Tantus as a scientist,
that's
it's like
true.
You're just a part of the maybe there's some division between different programs and stuff, but like if you're in the Necromancer program, it's like you can get access to that stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I also think there's more people notice that as well. But I think what it is that with Omega back, they can like really double down on the work, whereas they were kind of really stalled when she wasn't there.
Good point.
Right?
I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
All right. So she is introduced to Eva, who is playing with one of the hologram games, and is holding Omega's old doll, the Tuca doll.
Yeah.
So I like how she doesn't reveal that it was her old doll.
Yeah.
She just says it's she's like, I like your doll. It's cute.
Yeah, it's very cute.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She says, Dr. Carr gave it to me. She's the only nice one.
Yeah.
Right. And, again, this kind of harkens back to the conversation that they had with Nala Se, where it's like, it falls to you now to protect these children.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And, her reaction to getting the doll and feeling like, okay, Dr. Carr is the quote unquote the nice one, I think is a sign, despite her still being, very much by the book, is coming around to her.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she's been nicer to her more than just one way, probably. Okay, so we get a rundown of all the people, a reminder of all these kids' names, including, I think, Sammy, who we weren't introduced to before.
Yeah, I don't think we had her name before.
Yeah. So we have Eva. This is all from the StarWars.com databank. The Empire calls her SP-54, but she answers to the name Eva. The shy and soft-spoken, how do you say that? Iktoshi?
Yeah.
Species? Yeah. Is among the prisoners housed in the vault on Mount Tantus, subject to Imperial experimentation, like the other children here. Eva dreams of a day she can finally go home.
Mm-hmm.
Tragic. Next, we get Jax, a Miralan, Mirialan, Miralan, with a high M count. Jax is one of the several test subjects kept imprisoned on Mount Tantus as part of the Empire's Project Necromancer. Officially classified as SP-32, he's desperate to escape from his windowless confines,
Right.
no matter the consequences. Confines, not confines.
Ooh, see that? The difference between he's SP-32 and she's SP-54. 54. It's
Yeah.
like, ooh, where's the ones in the middle?
What happened to the rest of
between
those
that?
SPs?
Ooh, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also 54, it's just assuming that there was,
Yeah, there's
a
been
straight 1 through 54 number of
Yeah.
kids that are, in a dumpster back there behind
Yeah.
Mount Tantus somewhere? That's depressing. Next, we have Sammy. Again, this is the new one, the blue one. The quietest of the subjects housed in the Imperial Vault at Mount Tantus. Sammy is a cautious young girl who's very wary of upsetting her keepers. Worn down by her time in captivity, Sammy barely dares to so much as speak to the other children imprisoned alongside her. She's the same species as Senator Chuchi.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
And then we have Baron. We know Baron. Baron's the baby. Cursed or gifted, depending on who you ask. Little Baron has abilities unlike most other children his age. While spending his early life in the care of his mother, Ailish, on the world of Karad, Baron enjoys playing with a small doll and tolling around the local marketplace until he was kidnapped.
Yeah. Baby snatched.
Baby snatched, yeah.
I love when they show Sammy
him,
carrying him because he's so big. And like she's just like carrying him and he is his little stuffy. It's like,
it's so funny.
It's so sweet.
But it's sweet because at least for Baron, like he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah,
so he can just be like an innocent child.
He's like being taken care of. But it's nice to see the kids, giving him cuddles and stuff. So
yeah, I mean, obviously these kids are extra cute, so you're super inclined to care about them. Right. So Omega asks how long they've been locked up, but they caution her on not talking to each other too much,
right.
And about avoiding problems. It's like, we're not getting out of here, yada yada. I think Sammy, it says, "Don't worry, you'll get used to it," which is one of those like, I feel like Dr. Carr said something similar. Emery had said something similar early in the season about like, you're not imprisoned here, you'll get used to it, yada yada yada. Which, I feel like anytime someone says you'll get used to it, it's always used in like a like something is really crappy that someone should probably do something about, but no one has done anything about it. So you just fall into this like habit of just being, I guess it sucks forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you have to get used to something, it's never really a good thing.
Yeah,
so.
you don't have to get used to margaritas on the beach.
Yeah. I wish.
Yeah. Oh, I really need to ease into them. Yeah. Okay. Next, we go to actually any other thoughts on this intro sequence?
No, it was a nice little it was nice to see all these kids again and kind of see the Omega getting to interact with them a little bit finally, because we haven't been able to see her kind of suss things out yet there. So it was cute.
I skipped over this, but any other thoughts on this episode as a whole that you wanted to mention?
I don't think so. No, like I said, I was hoping for maybe a little bit more of a bulky episode for.
When I saw 26 minutes, I was at first annoyed, but then I was like, well, that's about average for this season, so I wasn't that bothered by it. And again, I feel like the pacing and what we get out of this episode is really tight. So
yeah, it was very tight. That's true.
I can't really blame it.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. I just I'm really hoping our next two are nice, big, bulky episodes. So,
well, I think the odds are pretty high.
Yeah,
at this point, it's like
final two,
with so much we have left to do. Even if next week's is a regular length episode, which would be disappointing. I think there's no way in hell that the finale isn't at least 40 minutes.
Yeah, if the next one's a short one, for sure.
Right.
But, yeah.
It's got to be.
Just with the name of this one, I kind of thought there was going to be a little more... Like, I thought they were going to get to Tantus.
Yeah, what did you make of the name Into the Breach? What?
Because I get it makes sense because they're breaching the checkpoint that you have to get to Tantus. So it does make sense. But for me, it was a little bit misleading because I thought this was like into the breach of like actually breaching into Tantus.
Yeah, the Into the Breach, the full quote from the poem or whatever is once again into the breach. And I guess the implication is here that they are once again going through the process of having to find Tantus.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
They failed on Pabu to get the tracker on. They were never able to get the original location before she escaped with Crosshair. So they are once again into the breach of we got to go face the Empire head on.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it really mostly applies to the Batch. Like, I don't know how much it really applies to Omega. Again, same idea, though. She's once again trying to escape Tantus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's fair. I just, from what we kind of assumed last week, we thought we were going to see Tantus this week. So, and it's fine that we don't. We're for sure going to get there tomorrow, next week. So it's, yeah.
Well, I mean, everything is pretty much primed for a pretty intense finale at this point. Yeah. All right, so let's now go to Bora Vio. This is a planet we haven't seen since season 1, but you'll recall it looks like Cloud City.
Yeah, it does.
And it's got just these beautiful vistas. We saw it last time in season 1's Bounty Lost.
Oh, yes.
Where, of course, we got Cad Bane facing off against...
I remember distinctly with that episode how good the lighting looked in it, like with the clouds and the light
mist
coming through the windows and like silhouettes and shadows and stuff. It looked really, really cool.
Yeah, and that was our return to first time we saw Cad Bane in the Bad Batch.
Yes.
I think so, right? First or second
time. The Bad
time.
Batch, I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And the first time we saw, what's her name?
Fennec.
In the Bad Batch, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And first time we got to see what a former Kaminoan facility looked like, which is also interesting, right? So this one was built in the clouds instead of in the sea.
Instead of in the sea, yeah. I was going to say it looks very Kaminoan as well. Yeah.
But it's, I guess, at this point now one of the last, safe houses that the Batch have because it's off the, Imperial radar,
right,
as it were, right? So we're back at Borovio, and we catch up with the Batch on the abandoned Kaminoan facility there. And Hunter is working on a data pad as Rampart whines and complains about his situation, right? He doesn't recognize the planet they're on or why he isn't allowed to leave. Hunter suggests that they could take him back to the labor camp, which obviously he's not interested in. Hunter promises to let him go once they have the quote-unquote exact coordinates to Tantus base, right? So, it's one of those classic, like, you promised this, and it's like, well, yes, technically, but plans change, which we also get a little bit later.
Yeah.
But it also makes sense. It's like you're not done. You haven't given us
anywhere.
the answer.
You haven't done your part yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we risked all that to get you, and you're just not going to do your job.
Yeah, we're not going to let you slither out of this one.
Yeah. Exactly.
What do they call him? They call him a hydro snake.
Yeah, a hydro snake. Yeah.
So Echo arrives on a stolen Imperial shuttle, which is the best you could do on short notice, but it is loaded up with the required equipment and supplies that they need. He says, quote, "You really think we can trust that hydro snake?" Which I love. I'm right here. I can hear you. I feel like Rampart has a lot of great lines in this episode, like killer lines. My favorite one, which I'll spoil for later in the episode, is, "Great, I guess we're all gonna die." Which is like so funny.
Yeah.
I love that. There's a bunch of good ones. And he's like, "I can't wear this uniform.
Yeah.
It's a captain's uniform."
Yeah.
It's so good. Like that. I feel like that did such a good job of balancing. This is what I mean about like why I really like this episode. It's good action, heavy on the suspense and tension, right? But they're able to use humor at just the right moments to make it feel like Star Wars still.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
And so that really works. Whereas in like, there's a lot of allusions that people are going to make to this episode, or not necessarily this episode, but this and the next couple to the Narkina 5 episodes of Andor, right?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Those are great. That's a great arc, that prison escape sequence, but not a lot of humor. In there.
No.
Pretty dour.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the I can't swim line is pretty funny, but also kind of sad.
It's a bummer.
I can't swim. But he says it with such a big smile on his face.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought that was hilarious. And he's like, "I'm right here." Anyway, they call him a hydro snake. No, but he's the best chance we have at finding Omega. right? So they have to trust him. They don't have a choice. There's been a lot of times in this season, in the last actually, where Hunter and the Batch are kind of placed into a position where they have to put their faith into people that they would not normally put their faith into because they have no other choice.
Yeah.
They're lucky they've gotten this far.
Even in this episode, I was surprised that, Rampart actually doesn't betray them like immediately, because he totally could have. And I was like, oh, okay, like at any point in this space, he literally could be like, hey, everybody. Like,
right, but he's
but
also a prisoner who's escaped the labor camp.
I know he is. But I was like, at the same time, he maybe could have leveraged that a little bit.
I think that adds to the tension. As I said before, I think this episode has such great tension across, there's two key sequences where it's really heightened. But the idea that at any point Rampart could betray them adds to that just an extra little notch on the tension meter, right? My dog is just not gonna shut up. I don't know.
I don't know if it's coming through or not, but sorry.
I don't know what his deal is. Hold on, let me try again. I'm gonna try to calm him down.
I love how you're trying to reason with him. You're a good boy. We'll go outside later.
Well, I got him up on the couch. Maybe that'll help him relax. He was just standing at the door, barking at the door.
Yeah. Stressed.
Okay. So aboard the shuttle, they question Rampart about the Tantus location situation. Again, this is one of those like classic movie moment lines where you can be like, oh, how many times do I have to tell you? Where it's like, well, obviously they've been over this before.
Yeah.
But it's for our benefit and also for Echo's benefit.
Yes.
Right? Who's new here. So the situation is this. Hemlock put a safeguard in place to keep the base's location a secret. Obviously there's probably a variety of those, but specifically any ship going there must first dock at Imperial Station 003, which we get a name for. We didn't have a name for it last time.
Right.
Glad we got to go back, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which is in orbit over Coruscant. So you have to go right into the heart of the Empire, dock there, and then not only that, the coordinates are then transmitted directly to the Navi computer before they leave.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is a line later in the episode where it's discovered that they can't steal the coordinates because once they depart, the information is transmitted to the Navi computer, which confused me because it sounded like he described that situation exactly in the situation here.
Right, yeah.
But maybe, as Rampart says, what do you expect me to know? The technical details, which is, I think, a totally fair defense, by the way.
That's fair.
Like, I don't know how my phone works. I just know that it works, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I guess that's fair, but he did basically describe the situation here. Mm-hmm. Echo does confirm that the space station element, at least, can be confirmed, but the rest can't be at this time. They aren't really inclined to take him at his word for it. And I love the lines like, "Do you think I'm lying?" And they just all of them at the same time. Yes,
we do think you're lying. Yeah,
exactly.
No, there's really lots of good interactions between them and Rampart that were so funny.
I don't want the show to end. It's too good. It drives me nuts. Why would they end it on season 3? There's got to be a good reason. What could be? I mean, I don't know what it is, but it has to continue with some other series. Okay. Next, they jump into planning mode and they start sketching out a strategy. They got to find a ship departing for Tantus and quote-unquote pull the coordinates from the Navi computer. Echo has an Imperial clearance code for them to use to get aboard the station. And at this point, Rampart is skeptical, saying that the codes change every rotation.
Right. Love
Hunter's response here is like, that's why we're not waiting around.
Yeah.
And they're jumping right into it, right? They plan to use Rampart to get aboard the station. The Batch will act as a security detail while Rampart is in disguise as an Imperial officer.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we get that great line. I can't wear this. It's a captain's uniform. I just love how he points at the emblem.
The little squares.
Yeah. And again, great writing here because you've been demoted.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it's
you've been demoted.
Really funny. I hate clones.
Yeah.
But the I hate clones felt like unnecessary because it's like, there's all clones here. Like, what do you...
Yeah.
Come on. Don't be I don't know, what is that? Racist? Are you racist if you hate clones? I
Yeah.
don't know. Anyway, whatever. Rampart's very likable in this episode
is,
because
yeah.
he's got these fun quips, but it is important to remember he did murder a lot of people.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, just a
He's
reminder.
a bad man.
Anyway, they jump to hyperspace from here and we return to Tantus. Back at the vault, Omega is having her blood drawn by Emery, Dr. Carr. Omega asks about the other kids. Where did they come from?
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Carr tries to reassure her that they're all being well taken care of, though not really providing any answers.
Yeah.
And again, really trying to pluck on her heartstrings. Omega's response is, "I'd like to believe you." Right?
Yeah. What I just feel like Emery can talk all she wants about how they're well taken care for, but Omega's right there. Like, she's seeing exactly how they're being cared for.
Right.
And it's like, doesn't seem like they're being cared for much.
Do I get any outside time? These kids are going to be pale
Yeah,
as hell.
They're just like
you
being
know?
left in a room by themselves to like play with these puzzles.
Right.
And that's it. Like barely any other interaction.
It's hardly a life.
Yeah.
Yes, they're well fed and they can sleep or whatever,
Yeah,
but it's not
like,
really they're not living a life.
No.
You know.
To me, that's not well cared for. Like,
No.
it's, yeah.
They're
in prison.
Yeah, and so like again, Emery's situation is tough, right? Because she wants to toe the company line and all that, but at the same time, the company line is like genocide. So
yeah,
what's your, where are you gonna fall on that one? And so she's kind of like, she's trying to be political here, or politically correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
And already, she's already dealing with this moral quandary of what was basically put on her lap by Nala-Se.
Yeah.
And now she has literal babies that she's having to take blood from.
Yeah.
So, again, you got to be a little sympathetic because she's kind of put between a rock and a hard place, right? If she tries to help them escape, it's not really that's probably not going to go well.
No, of course
right?
not.
And puts herself at risk and all that stuff. So,
yeah.
Again, not defending her,
No.
but you do understand her perspective, at least, I think, more.
Yeah, I think she's trying to take care of these kids the best that she can in the situation that they're in, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, while Dr. Carr finishes her work sending Omega's blood through a tube system in her cell, Omega continues her reconnaissance and steals a medical tool from Dr. Carr's set.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. It's like a loop. It's like a little
stick
stick with
like
a
little
loop.
pick or
Yeah.
like a
Anyway, it's a cool little device. It's odd that Dr. Carr didn't notice. Do you think she did but chose not to say anything?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Did it on purpose, but maybe not did it on purpose, but yeah, I don't know.
I feel like if anything, she was aware but didn't acknowledge it at the time.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, it's just tough. It's either that or she didn't notice. Ultimately.
Yeah, and if Omega gets found with that, they're gonna blame Dr. Carr. Be like, "Oh, did you give it to her?" Like,
right.
So they're
exactly.
for sure gonna be suspicious of it.
Right. So she's putting herself at risk if she doesn't notice,
Yeah.
and she puts herself at risk if she does notice and doesn't say anything.
Doesn't say
anyway.
anything. Yeah.
Okay. On the observation deck, another scientist that we meet, Dr. Scalder, because she's scalding them all the time, I guess. I don't know. Scolding them? No, that's not right. Advises Dr. Carr against having Omega, quote unquote, intermingle with the other children. So I guess her advice here is that Omega should be kept in isolation.
Right, yeah.
Which doesn't seem like a better idea, to be honest.
No. But I mean, I get from her point of view, it's like, hey, well, she already escaped once, so maybe, I don't know.
So this is according to StarWars.com. The head medical officer on Mount Tantus, Dr. Scalder, oversees cloning procedures and other scientific experimentation at the behest of Dr. Royce Hemlock.
Okay.
So she's the head medical officer, and her recommendation as the head medical officer is that Omega should be kept in isolation.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like solid medical advice, in my opinion, but I'm not a doctor. So Dr. Carr pushes back, saying that they're engaged in the provided activities and they're under supervision. There's really no risk, right? Dr. Scalder points out that despite being supervised before, Omega was still able to cause problems and escape,
yeah.
right?
It's like,
yeah, so it's like, well, how well did that work up for you before? And Dr. Carr is not having it, reminding her that she is the chief scientist. She pulls rank here, and that she'll, quote, run the vault as she sees fit.
Right.
It's funny. When she kind of pulls rank here, it's one of those moments where you're like, she doesn't really command a lot of respect.
No.
The orders don't sound right coming out of her
Yeah, they
mouth.
really don't. Yeah.
So Dr. Scalder, obviously skeptical. She doesn't seem convinced, but leaves it be, right? Back with Omega, she's asking more questions with the kids. right? And she's continuing her reconnaissance work. How often do the droids take our vitals? Twice a day after meals. Okay. Do the troops ever enter the vault? Only when we cause problems, right? Then they mention Jack's escape attempt, how he didn't get very far. He doesn't believe that there's any way out. He's really been broken at this point, right?
He looks bummed.
He's super bummed. Well, he says specifically, we'll never go home, right? And that's man. Once you accept that, that's rough.
Yeah, but that's what they want.
That's
right?
exactly. That's what they're looking to do. They want to break them, and it's easier to break kids, as Hemlock says. They're more compliant or exactly the more susceptible to the subjugations or whatever he says. It's brutal. Anyway, Omega, Omega's so cool in this episode. She's like, you guys want to know a little secret?
Yeah, I love when she says it.
Yeah. I've escaped this prison before. And as soon as she says that, you could see the eyes in these kids
they
light
all
up.
light up.
Right?
Yeah, it's very cute.
It gives the kids hope, which, all you need, right? In these prison scenarios, you just need to be able to continue to hold out hope, right?
Kind of reminded me like she's like the extra bad kid in like a juvie where it's like, I've been here before and I've escaped.
Yeah, no, I know I know how this works.
I know how to get out.
Right.
Yeah.
I've already crafted a shiv, don't worry. Anyway, the kids want to know how she did it. She says, I had training and I wasn't alone. What I like about that is that she can A, impart training, and B, she's not alone. She's with these other kids. So with only themselves, they have all they need to pull off this escape
and that's
attempt.
a great way to give those other kids like some hope. And
Tough to escape with a baby, though. That's going to be tough. Well,
Yeah, you just strap it
How are you going to climb? Yeah, I guess. They have to climb through those tubes with a baby.
Yeah, that is going to be the tough part. I'm sure one of them is just going to like shove them in there.
I guess I'm wondering like how far into their escape it, because like we know that the Batch are coming, right?
Right, yeah.
Are they? So there's a cavalry that comes. That's the final episode, right?
Yeah.
So in theory, maybe the next episode is the Batch sneaking into Tantus.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Omega sneaks out.
Yeah.
Right.
Or at least gets the kids in the walls or whatever in the it gets them inside the plate. Like, what am I talking about? Inside the facility in a more secure
or
area,
into a
like
less secure
hiding.
area.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, they're in the walls. Like, they're not in their cells anymore. Yeah.
They're inside the walls.
They're in the walls. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the idea of them like ships passing in the night, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't love that because it would feel pretty frustrating with only one episode left.
Yeah.
I would like them to be able to like sneak in, find a way that where she is, and then have them meet up in some way.
Yeah, they're gonna have to try to find each other somehow, right? But
I think Omega knows that they're coming for her.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
But she doesn't know when or how, so she has to just act on her own.
Yeah.
Right.
Try to get them at least to the best possible solution.
Yeah, and I would like it's like to set up the escape attempt. It's like we have to go through these tubes and then not show it to us.
Yeah.
Would be kind of shitty. So they have to show it to
I'm
us.
sure it'll be simultaneously.
Just like they did today with this episode with that stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. And then I love this part too. You want to know something else? Want to know another secret?
Yeah.
I'm doing it again and I'm taking you all with me.
Yeah.
It's so bad. And like I was like fist pumping at this point. I was like, that is so cool.
It's awesome.
It is like it just
Yeah, especially almost like she's telling kids like I came here on purpose to get you.
Right.
Like, it's like
I'm
here
it's
to
kind of
save you.
true because she came to rescue the clones and like obviously these guys need rescuing too. So
very Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
I'm Luke Skywalker.
I mean,
I'm here to rescue you.
You're a little short to be a stormtrooper.
Yeah.
I read so there's two things. I read two articles from slashfilm.com, which is a great website. One called Star Wars: The Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 13 calls back to Hitchcock thrillers in classic cinema.
Oh, okay.
Where they reference a couple of different Hitchcock movies. A New Hope. Sorry, that's a Star Wars movie. Notorious. The Shawshank Redemption, which is obviously not Hitchcock, but another prison break episode or movie, as well as Torn Curtain and The Guns of Navarone.
Okay.
So these are like classic Hollywood films that harken back to some of these kind of high tension moments that we get. And obviously Hitchcock known for his suspense, right? So they really, pulling from the best. So I'd encourage you. It's a really short article. Go find that on slashfilms.com and read it. There's another one, which I think it's just, I don't remember what it's called, but it's another Bad Batch Episode 13 kind of mini review.
Gotcha.
And they talk about kind of some of the callbacks. In fact, they also talk about in this, the callbacks to other Star Wars moments.
Yes, yeah.
the very first movie, A New Hope, featured a prison break, right?
Yes.
Sneaking into a Imperial facility.
Mhm.
There's a lot of callbacks to that, including the command control center that they're in looks almost identical to the one that they're in
Okay,
in the
yeah,
Death Star,
yeah.
etc. Right? Obviously, like putting on Imperial uniforms and sneaking in, that's all within the scope of the original series and the original trilogy. Then, of course, the needing the codes. That's a classic moment from Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Fly casual, which is one of my favorite lines in all of Star Wars. And then we also get a Empire Strikes Back moment where they attach themselves to the ship. So it's kind of, there's all these really great callbacks. That's also in this article about the Hitchcock stuff. And there's, again, a second/film kind of mini review of this episode. They also loved it.
Yeah.
So it's a love-in sesh for episode 13.
Should do a Hitchcock movie for the...
Yeah, you know, it'd be good.
For the pod, for the movie club.
That's a good idea. Remind me at the end of the month.
Okay.
Okay. So where were we? This line from Omega telling the secrets.
Yeah.
No, you can, cut it as many times in any different combination, any way you like. It's just a really cool sequence of dialogue. It's just badass. So Omega then reveals that she's been building a layout of the vault with the little chips from one of the provided games that they got. Her plan is to scope out the tube system that transports their samples. She'll use the stolen tool that she got from Dr. Emery to get the hatches open.
I love how she shows it to them.
She's like,
it's like she has a ship.
Yeah, I know. It's right in her sleeve. Yeah.
Yeah.
She said, don't worry, I'll get that open, right? But she needs time. I love how the kid's like, it won't take them long to notice you're gone. And then again, the line, that's okay. I like a challenge.
Yeah.
It's like, bring it on. Nothing scares this girl.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
She must seem so cool to those kids. Like, she just shows up
100%.
and immediately, like, don't worry, I have a plan.
I got this.
I have a shiv.
Right.
Shows them that they must just be so pumped. And it's fun to see their their demeanors kind of change.
Right. They get a little excited.
Yeah, right? Because they were all like, we're going to be here forever. We're sad. We're bummed. Like,
well, and maybe this is what Dr. Scalder was talking about. It's less about what the effect on Omega is, and it's more about the effect on the other kids, which is that they might start getting the wrong ideas.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We cut back to Imperial Station 003, and back with the batch, they're approaching Coruscant and the orbital station. Echo has stripped all the paint from their armor in an attempt to blend in. Bit of a sad moment here for me.
Yeah.
We got the original paint scheme that, the red and black and gray that we saw both in the original Clone Wars and the beginning of Season 1 of The Bad Batch. Then we got the repaint job, right, in Season 2 with the more turquoise and orange.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool color combo in and of itself. Of course, Crosshair still had the black and red on his uniform.
Yeah, his was still. It's funny though, like about them blending in, because to me, like Wrecker will never blend in.
Right, which is why he stays behind.
Oh, okay, yeah, because he's just so. But even the other ones, like I don't know, you'd think that a lot of them would like know who the Bad Batch are.
I don't. I mean, is a regular TK trooper just gonna know who?
Probably not. Actually,
no, I don't
you're
think
right.
so.
Because even like those other like troopers, when they first met them, like Rex and them, didn't really know much about them. So.
Right, they're special ops. They're never really seen.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and they are like in a span too, where like they're getting so many new kinds of troopers. Showing up that it like
here's all the history of the Republic commandos and their special ops. Like no one's gonna know that stuff.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
And they want to kind of gloss over a lot of that stuff as far as from an Imperial training perspective.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that they weren't like recognized straight away.
Yeah.
Right. Although. It would only have taken like an older Imperial officer or something like that to be able to maybe clock it. But they're lucky that didn't happen. Anyway, as they drop from hyperspace, just on this paint scheme for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
The all black is fine, or like off gray or dark gray.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's cool. StarWars.com, in their kind of trivia gallery, they say, in the episode, the batch stripped their armor of all unique customizations, giving us the first look at what the squad might have looked like on their very first mission, which I didn't really consider at the time, but it just lacks so much extra character that, and obviously he doesn't have his handkerchief or his neckerchief or whatever that Hunter has and all that other stuff. But I love Star Wars armor. It's cool seeing it in this form. I'm hoping that it's not just for toy purposes. We can get 3 versions of Hunter and 3 versions of Wrecker and 3 versions of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just from these like last 2 episodes.
Right, like
or
I'd hate
3
to have to get another
episodes.
Echo just because they script his paint.
Yeah.
But I guess it just seems like it's like I get it, but wouldn't it have been easier to just steal TK Trooper armor?
Just to steal armor, yeah. But I get it, and it's like, yeah, it's true. But yeah.
Whatever. I know. It's cool to see it, but it just
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense, which is why I guess they write in the episode they're like, this isn't standard armor or whatever uniform. They call it out.
Right. And I don't know, maybe it has a little bit to do with I mean, we'll see, but about they're kind of stripping them of their Bad Batch colors, and we're not too sure if they're gonna live or die, right? Like they're kind of going back to like this more plain look. I don't know. I did find it a little bit harder to like distinguish them too. I was doing like I had to do multiple things while I was watching this episode, so I was just like I had to rewind a couple times. Like, wait,
luckily, the Hunter, like their masks or helmets are all pretty unique.
Yeah, they're still relatively
Hunter, Echo, who has that like very distinct weird one, and then Crosshair, which obviously has like the sniper.
Yeah,
one.
his is.
Anywho, let's continue in our breakdown here. So, Echo points out that despite the paint being gone, they won't really blend in, and that the challenge will fall to Rampart to make this all work.
Right.
Rampart chimes in saying that he didn't just make it to Vice Admiral, quote, on looks alone, which is another great line, right? Implying that he has the Imperial know-how to make this all, function as. And by the way, he's very capable in this episode, which
he is
nice to see.
And this is kind of what I meant about how I was surprised with how helpful he actually kind of was. Like, there's definitely some parts where I was like, ooh, like they're just coming up on some stormtroopers.
It seems it's very reminiscent of our turncoat brother from Rebels.
Oh yeah,
right?
Callus.
In Callus,
yeah,
because
when not 100%
when he would put on the Imperial disguise, he could do all the things like pulling rank and knew what the right things to say were to get them through checkpoints and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I find it very satisfying to watch.
It is nice. It's nice when you get that Imperial officer that's helping the good guys, and it can make things go a little bit smoother.
Right, for good or for
you see it working.
Yeah,
especially like it's been a while since we've seen the Bad Batch's plans kind of work.
It's true.
So
it's true, but hey, they called in the right support on this, right?
Yeah, they did. They're not jumping. Well, they're not jumping the gun, but like this was a little bit more planned. So
a little bit. They had to think on their feet.
Mm-hmm.
And any good mission like this or any good story like this has a couple wrenches thrown in to kind of throw things off, right? So as they drop from hyperspace, Echo transmits their landing codes, a la Return of the Jedi, that fly casual scene.
Yeah.
And the codes are accepted, and they are cleared to land, right? So the tension isn't quite as high here as it is in maybe Return of the Jedi when they're like waiting to see, It kind of happens pretty quick, and that's fine because the tension is really saved for later.
Yeah.
Echo points out that they can't stay long as the shuttle likely reported stolen soon, which is funny. It's like, you're just mentioning this now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Rampart continues his whining, asking for reassurance that they'll let him go, assuming that they don't get captured or killed on this quote-unquote little mission.
Yeah.
Again, just great moments from him. Crosshair, though, rightly points out that he'll just have to trust them as they are trusting him to pull this off.
Right.
They need each other.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, you could go running back to the Empire. Obviously, again, this is what Hunter points out in like just a moment here. But it's a exercise in trust, something that is not generally built up much in the Empire.
No.
It's not really about trust so much as it about respect.
Yeah.
And fear.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that is true. That's very different with working with these guys as opposed to like how it was when Rampart was just working with other Imperials, right? So it's just following orders and giving orders at that point where this is a lot more of a partnership, and you really have to trust each other and give that person a reason to trust you too.
Mm-hmm. And well, obviously they both have a lot at stake here, right?
Yeah.
So, because again, Rampart can't just go crawling back to the Empire. They're not going to take him back.
No.
So he has to play along, and this is his this is what he's made to do, basically, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is his element, right? I love how he says, like, mess this up.
Yeah.
I know how to handle myself. You're the ones who are going to stand out like overheated Gamorreans.
Yeah, I liked that insult.
Overheated Gamorreans is such a funny, like, because right away you're like, what does an overheated pig people look like?
Yeah, just, I don't know, sweaty and
like one of those like roasted pig spits.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
I like that a lot. I was like, it really gave you a good visual.
Yeah.
When you think about it. You're like, what would an overheated Gamorrean look like?
And
Like, pretty gross.
Yeah, pretty gross.
Yeah.
And I like like as he's doing this for this whole sequence, he's basically like adjusting his uniform and straightening his
whatever you
little
call
badge
that.
and all that kind of stuff. And he's straightening his hair and he's getting the behind the arms, like arms behind the back walk down.
Yeah.
Right?
Just
he's
getting right back.
He's getting back into character.
Yeah.
So we get a really cool shot of the landing bay, very reminiscent of the the Falcon being docked on or being pulled into the Death Star from that outside perspective. Again, we got something similar when we were last at this what's it called, space station.
Right.
We also get to see it if you look closely as they're docking. We get to see an Imperial era gunship parked in the background.
Oh, I didn't notice.
So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Hunter has one last note for Rampart as they depart the shuttle. Quote, "The Empire betrayed and imprisoned you. Remember that before you try and betray us."
Yeah.
Right? And I don't love this line from Rampart. It's like, "I'm here, aren't I?" Which feels very reluctant, but we need more than you need to be fully engaged here for this to work. So
I think it's an important thing for them to remind him at this point, though. Like it's like, hey, like we broke you out of prison. Like, yeah, technically we're kind of kidnapped you.
Yes, we did it for our own personal reasons.
But
it doesn't change the fact that we broke you out of prison.
Yeah, we broke you out of prison. So like, try not to be shitty here.
Right. A little respect. A little,
Like they did way worse to you than we are. We're setting you free. So like,
we're trusting you to do something. That's not something that you were doing before.
Yeah.
Okay. Clips Films Melbourne. Sorry. I know that's not. You don't say Melbourne. Anyway. Melbourne. Yeah. Wouldn't it be cool if someone let Zillo Beast escape on Mount Tantus, destroying everything in the facility, and eat Dr. Hemlock for the final episode? So this is something we've talked about in previous episodes. This idea that like letting the Xylo Beast or Zillo Beast escape.
Yeah, I hope so.
I didn't consider the eating Hemlock idea though.
No, it'd be great. I would love to see the Zillo Beast be let free. And
Hemlock is a poisonous plant, so you don't want the Zillo Beast to die from eating that gross poison.
I do want to see it be free and mess some stuff up though.
Because if any planet the Zillo Beast could be free, it's that one.
Yeah,
right
100%.
On what's it called? Wayland.
Wayland.
Tantus. So I think, by the way, the Wayland is a callback to Alien, the Weyland-Yutani Corporation.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that's what that is.
You know what? I would bet.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah.
But there's a second mountain. There's like we have Mount Tantus, and then there's like another mountain in the background, a little bit smaller, with also has the cutouts and the base inside.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what's the story there. Is that the same? Are they both Mount Tantus? That seems like two mountains is not one mountain, so I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay, so Hunter has Wrecker stay on the ship to monitor comms. Again, he would stand out too much.
Mm-hmm.
They are greeted by Lieutenant Holmes, inquiring about their unscheduled docking. Always good to have a conversation with an Imperial officer.
Mm-hmm.
StarWars.com says this about Dr. Holmes. In charge of docking bay 502 of the Imperial Orbital Station over Coruscant, Lieutenant Holmes is a prime example of the Empire's zest for order. Yeah. Visitors, that is such a fun zest for order. Visitors not logged in his manifest will be subject to a swift interrogation. But the mere appearance of a Imperial authority is not enough to quell his suspicions. This is another example of both the good and the bad of the Empire, in the sense that, two things. I love how earlier in this episode, Rampart's like, you're just going to walk onto an Imperial station. It's like, meanwhile, like, I'm just thinking about all the times in all the Star Wars media that we've seen our heroes just waltz on into an Imperial facility in some form or fashion.
Just in like a really whatever disguise kind of. Yeah.
And like, for my money, this is like one of the best ones. It's up there with some of my favorite like infiltrations of all time, right? But another example of like the hubris that the Empire has, right? That that anyone would even dare to just walk aboard an Imperial, space station, is enough a deterrent for most people. Anyway, really great moment here with Lieutenant Holmes, right? So, the batch play it pretty cool. They don't say anything as Lieutenant Holmes grills them. He's like, this isn't standard uniform. Who
Right.
which division are you from? Yada yada yada. But Rampart steps in, saying that the clones are in quote his division and that his orders are classified, name dropping Governor Tarkin. And he says if he has an issue with it, if you have an issue with it, you can take it up with Governor Tarkin. I love how I think that the issue idea is like emphasis specifically to sound more like imperial hoity-toity.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But very funny in and of itself. Clips Films Melbourne again. Omega is Chicken Run character Ginger, which is a great reference. You're right. The super capable has the plan concept. Chicken Run, also top tier prison escape movie.
I have not seen that movie in a very, very long time.
I think there's a second one coming. It might already be out or coming out. Why? Because it's great. The first movie's great.
It's great.
It's way ahead of its time. Okay.
But yeah, I love that. Like the classic. I feel like this is just a classic Star Wars trope.
It is.
Anytime you're trying to derail like an Imperial that's giving you too much of a hard time. Yeah, a lackey and someone that you know that is definitely like lower on the totem pole of like these higher up guys. Is like they just say like, oh, do you want to talk to Tarkin about
take
this?
It up it up with the highest authority, right?
Yeah, take it up with the Emperor.
Yeah,
and they're just like immediately like, oh, okay,
yeah, like
sorry.
oh, well, yeah, not yet, no.
Yeah,
and that's ultimately the Empire's biggest weakness is this
the hierarchy of
the mentality of fear that they instill.
Absolutely.
Right, that because this is an unscheduled docking, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I should take it up. Different world where the Empire didn't have this culture of fear. They would be able to take it up with another supervisor or another superior somewhere and be like, "Can you confirm this? This seems weird." Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But instead, they're too afraid of being,
wrong.
thrown in the brig or being assigned to some backwater country or backwater planet. So instead, they keep their mouth shut, which allows people to, operate in the shadows.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I feel like in the Empire too, there's a very much of a hierarchy of who's allowed to talk to who. Like you know how like sometimes like if you've worked in restaurants, like kitchens run like that. Like you can't
just go talk to the head chef.
Well, not even that. Like you don't. Well, it's not even like you don't talk to someone just directly on the line. You talk to like the head chef or you talk to like whoever. Like there's like a person running everything that you talk to. Yeah. It's just like kind of how it always reminds me.
Whoa! You have to go through me.
Yeah, you don't just talk to the guy on the fryers if you need something. Like you have to talk to.
You talk to me, and I'll talk to the fryer guy.
Yeah.
Right. You gotta follow the hierarchy.
The chain of command, yeah. So it's like that guy probably couldn't even be allowed to just talk to Tarkin if he wanted to.
Right, exactly. He's like, who are you? And, exactly. So.
But yeah, Rampart's using that to his
yeah, exactly.
His
and
advantage.
Again, watching Rampart in his element is very sasatisfying to watch. Especially when it's on your side.
Yeah, when it's on your side, it's great. Yeah.
I love I miss this line. Again, great lines from him, right?
Just bullying people.
Yeah. Well, it's like, he's back into the rat race.
Yeah,
He's like, I know how to navigate this. He's like a very young officer who's able to make it to vice admiral.
Yeah.
Right. You don't just do that because you're following orders. He has some ambition and he knows how to navigate the politics of the Imperial chain of command.
Yeah.
Right. So as they make their way through the station, their gear does in fact make them stand out. People do look at them, but no one says anything because, again, you don't want to be out of line.
Right.
We get to see some early concepts of the TK version of the TIE pilot armor, which is still white but has the dual tubes coming out of the helmet, which is cool. They have to make their way to a command station, which is guarded by 2 troopers. Rampart gets to jump into action again here. He tells the troopers to head back to the barracks for updated orders. They do tell him that they just started their shift, but he threatens to put them in the brig for violating, quote, Article 15 of Imperial Standing Order 10, and this also works like a charm.
Yeah.
I looked up Article 15, Imperial Order 10. Doesn't exist.
Exist.
There's nothing. Well, I mean, there's nothing written down about it, so maybe it does exist, whatever.
Yeah.
But like making up like a, code X subsection Y, whatever is, we've seen that in movies before, but it's fun. It's just fun to see it applied to the Star Wars universe in this way. So fun. So this also works, and once they're inside, they try to get a control technician. I love this. They enter here, and he's just like, "You there? Show me the station manifest."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Can I see some identification, please?"
Yeah. Like what?
Yeah. But he, when he doesn't immediately comply, Hunter quickly pulls his blaster and stuns him.
Yeah.
I love he just immediately like, nope, boom, right to stun. And by the way, Lots of
It's a
stun
good drive.
settings.
Yeah.
Lots of stun settings. Here's what I'm thinking has been going on, because not only does Hunter stun him here as a technician, and Wrecker knocks out Lieutenant Holmes. He's not dead.
Right. Right.
When they could have easily, like,
Just killed
Hunter
him.
could have easily killed him.
Yeah.
Right. And again, same thing here. They could have easily killed him.
Mm-hmm.
To me, there's two explanations. The out of universe explanation is that Disney would prefer if their heroes weren't murdering people all the time.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
And it's a little annoying because we're dealing with a special ops team. It doesn't make sense that they're constantly knocking people out all the time. It's weird.
Fair. Yeah, I do think it is part of, like, they're the good guys, right? So
Yeah.
they're not supposed to just be, like, killing people who aren't.
Well, there's a code, right? Unless you're
Yeah.
engaged with me
Yes.
first, I'm not going to just murder you in cold blood.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like, I'm not. Yeah, you're just doing your job, right? Like,
Yeah,
and
but
I mean, your
also-
job is shitty, and you work for the Empire, but you're not actively trying to kill me. So they kind of more of a self defense,
Sure.
sort of
I also think that
killing.
if they use this is my kind of like other
Mhm.
headcanon theory, which is that if they used their blaster on like kill mode,
yeah,
kill setting,
yeah,
murder setting, I don't know what you want to call it, they took the safety off, that it would like set off an alarm or whatever, because both Echo
Yeah.
does it inside the science vessel,
Mhm.
and they do it inside this control station. I'm not necessarily sure that that's the case, because I think, again, in the Death Star,
Yeah.
that's not necessarily the case.
No,
but,
I always thought
know.
like maybe the blasters are louder, like the kill setting's louder, or
I
like
think
it
it
leaves
is.
like score marks on the wall.
Well,
like,
you
it
also
shoots
risk
through
damaging the
you.
equipment.
Yeah, like
right?
you risk there being like a blaster hole in the wall after, or
Right.
blood, like that kind of
But
stuff.
either way, these people are going to wake up and be like, "Oh yeah, these people just walked in here and stunned me."
Yeah.
And like, is that better or worse for you? I
Mhm.
don't. In terms of their mission and being trying to stay
Right.
under the radar, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just something worth noting. So anyway, they knock out this technician, and as I mentioned, this looks exactly like the one Han and Luke use in the Death Star, and that's when that great line where it's like, "Good, how are you?"
Yeah.
Which is funny. They jump into action right away. Echo scomps into the console directly, and then back with the shuttle, Lieutenant Holmes is back to question Wrecker, who wants to speak with the captain, who is quote captaining.
Yeah.
And
Captaining.
I love how Lieutenant Holmes isn't really even paying attention, because like, yes,
No.
well, there's an inconsistency with the shuttle's origin. I will need to verify this vessel's signature key.
Yeah.
He doesn't even acknowledge that he just said captaining.
He's captaining. Yeah. He's just like, okay, you're
Yes,
just like
I
a
see.
stupid
Yeah.
security detail,
Right.
whatever.
Anyway, Record, he's like, yeah, right this way. Yeah, bang, right in
Yeah.
the back of the head.
Yeah, just,
Judo chop. So funny. In the control room, Echo is working to break the encryption to access the manifest. Meanwhile, Wrecker calls into Hunter to let him know about the situation with Lieutenant Holmes. He said, I had to sideline an Imperial.
yeah.
Someone might come looking for him. Right? Hunter has Wrecker prep the ship for a quick departure, though.
Yes.
He's like, okay, we're going to have to move quick. Echo gains access to the computer and learns that the science vessel is docked at Bay 8 and is set to depart for Tantus.
Mhm.
And they don't have very much time. It's going to be leaving right away. Hunter wants to grab the coordinates from the science vessel's Navi computer. However, Echo has bad news, confirming Rampart's story from earlier. Quote, the vessel is tagged for direct uplink after it launches from the
Right.
station.
Mhm.
Right? So they'd have to be on the ship to steal the Navi
Right.
computer, which would have been a cool heist thing too, right?
Yeah. Oh,
be
yeah.
able to steal the info and drop off, like get out of the ship before
Before
it
it
jumps
launches,
to
yeah.
hyperspace. That's
Yeah.
cool.
But it does make sense that in the Empire's the way they do things, that yes, like they're not just going to upload it as it's sitting there. It's way like safer to do it as it's in atmosphere,
Right.
before they jump. So,
Well, I
like,
think-
it does make sense.
I think for most of the time these ships have the coordinates already.
Yeah,
But
usually
for this
but for
specific
Tantus,
for Tantus,
that's
this
what I
is like
mean.
this is their backup.
it's extra protected,
Yeah.
right? So like that is a very cool element that they added there, that they don't even put it on there just as it's sitting there waiting to launch. It's like the second before you launch, you get to
That's right.
coordinates.
Yeah. Crosshair confronts Rampart, whose defense is that you expect me to know technical details like that, which, as I said
Yeah.
before, is totally fair. But again, I just feel like it's inconsistent with kind of what he said before, which was that I'm pretty sure he basically said this.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what Crosshair's deal is, or he just wants to be a dick, maybe.
Yeah, and he wouldn't necessarily know at what point they put it on the
Yeah, but I
shuttle.
mean, like, for
he just
Crosshair, he's
knows.
like,
Yeah.
oh, you forgot to mention this? He's like,
Mhm.
no, I literally said it. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I just thought that was a funny line.
Mhm.
Crosshair doesn't have a lot of dialogue this episode,
No.
but his dialogue is a bit weird. There's this one specific line later where he's like, "Don't worry, Echo's on it," and he's like, "I'm sorry, were we supposed to know that Crosshair had this like respect for Echo and his capabilities? Like, they were on the same squad for a while, right before Order 66 happened.
Yeah.
So maybe that's when they're kind of like...
Yeah, I would assume. Like, he's worked like with him closely.
Yeah.
So.
But still, it's just a funny line coming from Crosshair. Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Echo's on it.
Echo's on it.
Yeah. Anyway, this leaves them with only one option. Hunter notes that the science vessel is still going to Tantus, so they'll need to hitch a ride. Rampart reminds them that the heightened security protocols of a science ship means that it's impossible for them to all sneak aboard undetected.
Right.
Echo is ahead of him on that already, though, noting that maybe not all of them can sneak aboard, but he certainly can.
Right.
Hunter instructs Echo to disable the proximity sensors once he's aboard the ship so they can follow behind and attach their shuttle to the underside of the ship and hitch a ride directly to Tantus. I love that Rampart's like, I didn't agree to this change of plans.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, well...
Yeah, well, you got to just roll with
late.
it. Yeah, you got to roll with it. Hunter ignores Rampart and reminds Echo to go radio silent as they'll be monitoring comms. Another inconsistency here is because Echo does radio them later.
Right.
And says, I'm on the ship, it's getting ready to leave. It's like,
right.
Sorry, what part of radio... I mean, maybe
silent.
once it leaves, they can't use radio.
Yeah, maybe.
But still, like, it's just like weird to mention that specifically if we're going to use a radio transmission later in this.
Yeah.
Anyway. As they make their way back to the shuttle, Rampart gets one more great line, which is, wonderful, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
That cynicism is so great. It works so well in Star Wars because
it does.
You know that the like odds are stacked against them.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
I just feel like, obviously we've heard that line of dialogue in all sorts of media for years and years and years.
Yeah.
It works for me every single time.
It does, yeah.
Like
it's always said in such a nonchalant way too. It's always funny. Yeah, it's just like,
great.
Well, cool.
We're all gonna die.
Yeah, I guess we're dead, guys. No, you guys don't care. Yeah,
got it.
Just no faith in them whatsoever.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember more examples, but I know for sure I have. Like, there's some right at the tip of my tongue.
Well, for him too, like this plan probably seems batshit crazy. Like he's
it's
just
not
like,
a great plan.
What? So he's like, you're relying on one dude to make sure he can, if he's even possible, to to turn these. What is it called? The
Navi computer.
The
proximity
sensors off. Just in time for you to like latch your ship
I think
on.
you were forgetting that Echo was not just any regular clone, but he was an ARC trooper.
Yeah.
The best of the best.
Best of the best. And now he's
And by the way, he is so badass in this episode.
Yeah,
it's I know it like when Echo said don't worry, Echo's on it, I was already like, well, I guess.
Yeah,
it's like
he
did get blown up, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then like it cuts back to him and he's just like being the most badass you could be. Like he's just knocking out troopers left and right. He's pretending to be them on the comms.
Yeah.
He's hooking into the thing, turning it off right the last second so that they can hook. Oh my god, it's so badass.
It's just he is special ops. Like he is the most special ops out of all these guys.
Well, and the thing is, like, there's all these missions they've been on while we haven't been with them. And like, I want to know what those are all about.
Yeah.
Like, how much more cool shit he's been doing.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
Well, with Rex,
yeah.
It makes me nervous that Echo's with them right now, though, because I'm like,
oh, no, he's probably gonna die.
I know.
Yeah. I don't think you get a line like "Don't worry, Echo's on it" if he's gonna live another 2 episodes.
Because I'm like, we don't see him ever in like later stuff.
Yeah, but we don't see a lot of characters later.
I know that's true. I just like I don't get why he wouldn't have been with like I get it because it's.
Why wouldn't he be with Rex and
those
the
guys
rest
later?
of them?
Yeah, but he wasn't.
It doesn't seem like he's long for this world. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
We were gonna do a death pool.
I know we forgot.
I forgot.
We still have time.
We still have time.
Died yet.
Yeah, no one's died yet, and there's still next week.
Yeah. We'll try and remind ourselves.
Okay. Do you think anyone's gonna die next week? Probably.
It could. They could.
If you're gonna kill someone next week, it gives you time to deal with the fallout after. Yeah. What would drive me nuts is like someone dies at the last moment in the episode of the finale. And you're like, we don't get any resolution.
Yeah.
To that would be annoying. I do. Back to this episode for a moment.
Yes.
Make a note. We need to do that. We could do a death pool. I can post it separately, and then we can cash in on it next week.
Okay.
So I'll post that in the Discord and on so the Discord for everyone who's a Patreon subscriber. You'll be able to get it there. I'll also post it on Twitter and Facebook to take part in the death pool. Deadpool.
Deathpool.
Okay.
Bad.
So we're gonna try to get that out before next week's episode.
Yes.
Sometime over the weekend, I hope. Okay. So back to this episode for a minute. I just like Hunter is so badass in this episode. Not in the same way that Echo is, where he's kind of like showing off his skills, but his determination and commitment is so on point, and he is not messing around.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I love that he's the first one to stun that guy because, again, not messing around. And then as soon as the plan falls through here, he's like, no, he can't go alone, but he won't because I already have this other backup plan in mind.
Yeah.
He's giving orders. And then obviously there's a line later. I'll get to it when it happens, but it's so cool. Just so fucking cool. Okay. As they make their way back to the shuttle, Rampart gets that last line. We cut back to Tantus. And on Tantus, we get this gorgeous overhead shot of the mountain, which is such a cool idea. Top, like straight from the top down. So you get this beautiful shot of like the two cutouts that make up the Imperial base, make these like two circles, one inside the other. And that then cuts to inside the vault, which is also a circle with a circle inside of it. So it's got this like dual thing, both really cool visual, but also has a metaphorical kind of meaning to it about kind of being trapped inside consecutive circles, So just cool. I'm probably going to use that as the show art for this episode.
Good call.
The kids are still playing their games, though the last droid has taken the vitals and is taking off. Omega makes her way to her cell, which is clocked by Dr. Scalder. She's like, something's up. It's not something weird here.
Well, like all the other kids are kind of giving it away. They're all
they're like,
each other, all shifty eyed.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like, fucking be chill,
guys. Yeah. Be cool. Fly casual.
Yeah.
Right? Who begin to make their... Anyway, so she's like, what's going on? She starts making her way down from the observation deck down to the actual vault itself to look into things further. This leaves Omega with very little time. I thought it was funny because she was like, earlier in the episode, they're like, well, you're not going to have very much time. They're going to notice that you're gone. I didn't expect that to mean like, you're going to start this and then 10 seconds after you begin, they're going to notice that you're gone.
Yeah.
But it does add to the tension.
I thought the kids were maybe going to do like a bit of a diversion or something.
Right.
But
yeah, like start a fight or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, it works out. So she gets to her cell with very little time to do this. She uses the stolen medical tool to open the tiles on the wall, looking into the tube system, which appears to go pretty far into the complex.
Yeah, it's pretty deep. Like I was like, whoa, okay, it's like an elevator shaft.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
She accidentally knocks over more tiles though, making a little bit of a mess. And then we cut back to Scalder as she's approaching. So it's like, this is part one of, we have a time clock. You need to get this done in time, and this needs to work.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't have a lot of room for error. This is part two, of course, is with the rest of the batch.
Yes.
But this I thought worked pretty well. Ultimately, you have a pretty good sense that this is going to work out because it would be too early for this to fail.
Yeah.
But it still works for me. The music works, the tension's high, and it primes the pump tension-wise for the next sequence, which is I think there's less certainty about it and is arguably more tense and more exciting.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyway, she gets the information she needs. She puts the pieces back together, and Scalder arrives just in time to find that there's nothing amiss and leaves without saying anything.
Yeah, she's just hanging
out. But gives her a stink eye.
Yeah.
I know you're up to something.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, Omega returns to the kids with good news. She's found something. She's like, you guys, you want to know what I found out?
Yeah.
Our way out.
Yeah.
Boom. It's like, I was like, oh shit. Again, another fist bump moment for me. Like, I was like, this is badass. I just thought, again, the setup and payoffs in this episode were so satisfying that I just can't complain about the runtime or any of those other things, right? Okay. Now to the big finale. Imperial Station 003. In the loading bay, troopers are loading onto the science vessel with two clone commandos checking IDs and standing guard. Echo makes his way toward the ship, taking in the surroundings, but is caught off guard by a batch of 4 astromech droids.
Yeah.
It's so funny, these ones.
They are.
They're also being
cute.
loaded onto the ship, but they're being loaded on with one of those pneumatic tube systems.
I love
the one we saw on Java, on the
Yeah.
Jawa crawler, used to steal R2 on Tatooine.
Yes, yes.
I thought these droids looked so good.
They looked great. Yeah.
I thought they were so like the
They're so colorful
the finish,
and
the shiny.
Yeah.
I'm so used to everything looking so matte in this show. Everything has a matte finish.
Yeah.
But then you see this like shiny look of this astromech droid with like a transparent dome and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Really good, like very cool looking. Like again, with some tweaks, it would look just as good as R2 in the prequels.
Yeah. I love that there are 2 units too. Like I love to just see an R2 unit, especially at this point in time being used. I don't know. It's neat to see because those are probably the same ones
they're
that
good
Jedi
moves
were
too.
using.
These little like they're a little
like,
chipper.
Just booping around.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that kind of made me wonder. I'm like, oh, I wonder if any of these used to work with Jedis or
Oh no, those for sure were all trashed.
Well, no, they just get wiped. They just
poor R4
change their memories or whatever.
Right.
But I just feel like you don't often see R2s in the Empire.
Well, there's a reason for that. We have that. There's that one evil one I think we see.
The
that
bad one,
yeah.
But they're always those square-looking kind of ones, like Chopper.
The Chopper style.
Yeah.
Anyway, Echo clocks this as his way onto the ship. He uses a crate as cover. I love this, like, jump on top of this moving crate, climb off the side of it. He's in his non-painted armor is now very dark, so hides in the cover into the darkness really well.
Yeah.
And then is almost caught by the commando who's goes like whoop whoop. He like peeks out.
Yeah.
So he goes to approach. The commando comes to approach. Again, this is like the tension just slowly building. Each of these moments, a little bit more tense. He's coming closer. He gets just enough coverage from the droid and the other thing, and he's sucked up by the time he gets a view. He's already on board.
Already
Although, did you see kind of like how he like positions himself to be sucked into the ship? He puts himself into like a fetal position, but like not on his side.
Like
crouched and like grabbing his knees.
Yeah.
It's just so funny to imagine.
Like droid size.
Yeah. It's just funny to think of a grown man doing that.
Yeah.
To get sucked into a tube.
I loved seeing the mouse droid get sucked up into the tube too, because it was just like a little one.
Yeah.
Like a little tube came down.
Yes.
Boop,
Yeah.
just
That's
sucked
funny.
them up. They're so cute. I
good.
love that's the way that you get droids onto the ship. It's just a little tube.
A tube.
Sucks them up.
Yeah.
I love it.
They don't use the door.
No.
Okay. One of the clone commandos thinks he saw something, but turns out not. Or he did, but it was too late. So he was just in time as the ship was leaving the docking bay, like right at that moment, right? So he got on last moment. Hunter and the rest make it back to the shuttle just in time for Wrecker to drop off the unconscious Lieutenant Holmes before receiving a transmission from Echo that the ship is leaving now. Again, my assumption here is that they can't use comms once they depart.
Right.
Right.
It is wild that they're just leaving him there. Like, why not take him? Because isn't he a liability now? Because
but he's more of a liability if you're sneaking onto an Imperial facility. Like, what are they going to do with him?
Tie him up.
Yeah, on their ship. It's like, then what if he escapes and then radios?
That's true.
Just leave him there,
But then he's going to tell everybody as soon as he wakes up.
Yeah, but so is the other guy that they knocked out.
Yeah, that's true. They knocked out a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which is,
it is what it is. You're already gone.
Downside of not killing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they can wake up and be like, snitches.
Yeah, be like, hey, someone just knocked me out.
Yeah.
So
the guy looks suspiciously like Admiral Rampart that I saw on the news. Knocked me out? I don't know. Yeah. He has a nice beard, though. It's hard to... At first, I didn't recognize it because of the beard.
Yeah.
Anyway, they make a quick exit with the shuttle, not flying very casually, I might add.
Yeah.
Right? They make a beeline direct for the science vessel. I thought that would raise more alarms,
but... right, but...
whatever. We have other things to worry about.
Yeah.
Right? Tension's wrapping up here. Back with Echo, he quickly finds a scomp jack, and in one of the cargo holds, jacks in. This triggers an alarm at the bridge of an unscheduled droid activity. So another thing. Oh, damn, another thing. A trooper is dispatched to check it out, right? But it does buy them a little bit of time because they can't leave until they've checked it out.
Yeah.
Hunter, kind of like tailgating a little bit here, hanging back just behind the science vessel, waiting for the right moment, right? Waiting for the proximity sensor to be deactivated. It's still on. Rampart is kind of losing it. It's kind of like he's unraveling here.
Yeah.
Doesn't think the plan is going to work, but Crosshair reassures him that it will. He says, "Relax." Echoes on it, which again, sure, I guess.
Yeah.
They're good friends.
And Rampart's like, I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
So you should have said like, no, he was an ARC trooper who got stolen by the separatists. He got upgrades to his arm. Trust us. He is the best of the best.
Yeah.
But no, Echo's on it. Relax. And also, one of those good examples of like, Rampart was like in charge of the clones, but didn't know anything about Echo.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, Echo is still working when a trooper arrives to check things out. Echo quickly stuns the trooper and uses his comlink to give the bridge the go-ahead to proceed.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like the music here is just so intense.
Yeah, it is.
We know we're doing quick cuts,
Mm-hmm.
so we know that the tension's ramping up. It's very effective. The captain gives the go-ahead to jump to hyperspace, and the tension kicks up another degree here. We're like, okay, well, now we're really running out of time.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of like cuts to the bridge of like people like looking at each other and giving themselves the nod. Like, okay, you can now go ahead and move the lever.
Yeah.
Which is, it's fine. Like you need to be able to quickly intercut things. So Crosshair quickly points out that they're about to jump to hyperspace, but Hunter believes that Echo is going to pull through. He just needs more time.
Mm-hmm.
Rampart isn't convinced. He like leaves his seat, right? Assuming that Echo must have been captured and then demanding that they abort the mission.
Yeah.
Right? Instead, Hunter answers back with one word: negative.
Yeah.
And then pushes the controls forward, throwing Rampart back with the thrust, right? And makes that last push to catch up to the ship to dock just in time. When he said negative, I lost it.
Yeah.
I was like, we had how many fist pump moments at this point?
Yeah,
We had
just like, yeah.
Yeah, we had.
I just imagine you like.
I was like, whoa, whoa. Yeah, I was like that baby, like that meme,
Yeah,
of that
like,
hockey at that hockey game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
That is the funniest thing. How did they get that baby to look like a grown man? Like it's so wild. That's neither here nor there.
I love it. It's pretty easy sometimes because babies kind of just look like old men. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's like so into it. It's so
pumped.
funny. Yeah. So yeah, that moment when he just says negative and he's like, no, this is happening. He's committed to this happening. If they fail here, they fail everything.
Yeah. It's
right?
like we just
And
gotta
also,
try. Yeah.
We know there's only 2 episodes left.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they can't really afford to not make this work.
Yeah.
It would have been pretty bold of them to be like, no, they're going to fail again.
Yeah.
But we don't have time for that.
And like, I mean, what does Rampart say? He's like earlier that they'll shoot them out of the sky. Basically, that if you try to dock on them.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
That's
why I said we're all going to die.
Yeah.
Right. So he thinks we're going to die. Right.
And yeah, the Bad Batch are like, well, then we die.
Yeah. Well, at least we died doing what we loved.
Yeah.
Infiltrating the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, now we get several crosscuts, and these come fast and furious. We see the bridge of the science vessel push their controls forward to commence the jump to hyperspace, with the shuttle flipping around and doing its docking procedure at the exact same moment. We get a third cut of the proximity sensor deactivating just in time for him to click the button. The magnet clamps come out. He clamps on, and they jump at that exact moment.
Yeah, it's
and
really
it is
cool.
So cool. Between the last line of dialogue, which is negative, boom, pushing on the throttle, and then into this like, and they're like, is it going to happen? And click, boom, jump to hyperspace, and then cut to black.
Yeah.
And then we get this like heartbeat sound.
Yeah.
Oh,
very good.
So, yeah, I can nitpick this episode if you want to, but again, the moments that work really fucking work.
You're right. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. I agree. I definitely agree.
Anyway, that's the whole episode. So we got 2 left. We have what do we have left? We have Flash Strike. That's next. And then we have The Cavalry Has Arrived.
Yes.
That's May 1st, scheduled for that. Again, assuming a long one.
Yeah.
No IMDb user reviews because no one wrote one. So if anyone wants to go be the featured review on IMDb for this episode, now is your chance. There's a couple like just like title sequences, not like full reviews. Here's a couple of them.
Okay.
8 out of 10. Yes, now we're cooking.
Yeah.
Love that. This one just says Kevin Kiner, which
what?
He's the composer.
Fair enough.
And yeah, the music is great. Like from that opening boom sound all the way to the end with the high suspense. Totally killer, right? And then this one's 2 out of 10. This works somehow. Dumb, lame. You know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then another 8 out of 10. Home stretch? Question mark.
Yeah.
Yes. This is the home stretch.
Reviews and then plugging our podcast in them.
Can you do that?
I don't know. You can probably write it in there. Be like,
right. I'm gonna do one.
Don't
right
put
now.
it at the end. Just kind of like tug it somewhere in the middle.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Right.
Don't make the last
we
line.
mentioned this in our podcast, The Tower of Babel, the small screen Star Wars feature. Blah, blah, blah. Here's a link.
You probably can't put a link.
I probably can't put a link.
But
I mean, I could
mention
try.
it. Yeah.
Who's going to stop me?
IMDb.
Mr. IMDb.
Yeah.
Mr. DB himself.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Internet Movie Database. Maybe it's a Mrs. Internet Movie Database. Anyway, I love this episode. I am riding high on the excitement as we get into these final 2 episodes. I would love some confirmation on the runtime for the finale.
Me too.
Just to know what we're getting ourselves into.
I know. We'll see.
I just like, if you're not watching, if you got to this point, you've been watching the show, but like, tell your friends, like, get people
it's a good show.
to go watch this show.
Yeah,
because
it won't take up that much of your time.
There's only 3 seasons, and each episode's only like half an hour.
Yeah,
so you could do it in like an afternoon, or 2 afternoons if you really dedicated
couple
to
weekends.
it.
Yeah,
I would love a binge rewatch of this, like at the cabin at some point or something. Yeah, it would be killer. I just can't get over how well executed these things are. Again, not perfect. Nothing's perfect, especially when you have 13, 14, 15 episode seasons. There's going to be some duds in there.
Course,
but this isn't one of them. I'll tell you that right now. See if there's any people in the voice cast that are interesting. No. Everyone.
I love how there's a completely different actor for Baron Go All the Way Down. For the baby.
Oh, Shelby Young. She plays the baby.
That's wild that somebody else couldn't just do it.
Yeah, it is funny. Helen Sadler. Oh, Helen Sadler. I think I know her from something. Where do I know her from? She plays Dr. Scalder.
She looks like Dr. Scalder.
She actually totally does.
Yeah.
Known for the Lego Movie, she voices Rey in that.
Oh, okay.
Star Wars Squadrons.
So some Star Wars stuff,
She's a longtime voice actress. I didn't recognize that name from something. She does additional voices in X-Men 97. She's in Marvel's What If. Ahsoka, she plays HK Assassin Droid Leader.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. She's a B2 droid in Jedi Survivor. She's in Hogwarts Legacy. She does lots of video game stuff. So
makes sense. So she does Star Wars.
Yeah.
Lots of Star Wars stuff. So
she's done lots of stuff. She's actually, is a good actress.
Yeah.
I've seen her in lots of stuff now. So, okay. Enough beating around the bush. That is it. We'll be back next week with Flash Strike, I think it's called. Yeah.
Yes.
Flash Strike, which will be the penultimate episode for the entire series. So get ready for that.
Yeah.
Quick reminder, though. Due to scheduling conflicts, we won't be able to record Thursday. So we're probably going to record Friday. Worst case Saturday, but we'll try to record Friday evening.
Friday should be fine.
Yeah. So keep an eye out for that. Also, we're getting into hockey playoffs, which means there could be moments that we might need to adjust times around a little bit. That's all, potentially. But we only got 2 weeks left. So
we'll figure it out.
Well, and then we go into we have May the 4th. We have the
we have Empire
Tales of the Empire.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll have that to talk about. But other than that, and to be honest, the Jets are likely to be swept pretty quick, so it probably won't be an issue. If you have no expectations, you can't be disappointed.
That's true.
But I'll still be disappointed.
Yeah.
Anyway, Flash Strike next week. More Bad Batch, more small screen Star Wars. Until then, may the Force be with you.